and basically the topic of gear up for the job of future with UTS. And we'll definitely be more than happy to have your questions ongoing. And I hope that you will be enjoying all the sessions. And if you do, feel free to continue put in the question ongoing, as long as we'll be able to answer either from the middle of the session or to the end of the session. So cool. So in terms of technology, there's a simple area that I'm going to touch on today. I'm going to go on basically a soft touch on the job of the future. How's the connection like, and the way UTS do it, and how you're going to achieve them together with UTS. So this is something quite cool. So job of the future. Today, basically, a lot of us has heard the new names in the market, but we are not sure what is all this about. And very crucial is like example, like roboticist. A lot of people heard about this title, but not sure what they are involved in. Actually, it's a combination of multiple industry, like from mechanical, robotics, and even computer sciences into it, and robotic engineering. So like you talk about vehicle programmers, there's a lot of things that's happening in the market now. Example, like you talk about all these cars in the future, you talk about Tesla, you talk about all these self-driving cars. These are all related to programmers. So they program your car, the car move on its own. Basically, it goes into digital world. Everything will be happen through vehicle programmers. And of course, you can't run away from 3D modeler. This is a job of the future. Of course, a lot of people think that, do I need to be a designer or do I need to be an engineer? To be exact, basically, it should be an engineer. You do a lot of AutoCAD work, you do a lot of 3D printing stuff, and then you come out with the technology of how to actually get the new designing outcome of the 3D AutoCADs and many other areas as well. Of course, you can also be a designer behind it as well. So I will just touch a few on this, and then I'll bring you into more about how UTS actually brings you to that direction. And today I'm going to touch a little bit of a data scientist. We're going to talk about digital twin specialist, what is machine learning scientist, what is a visual in the identity defender, and of course, something that is quite unique in this market. A lot of people think that it's not a job yet, but voice UX designer. So if you look at Google, Siri, you sometimes you get frustrated talking to Siri or frustrated talking to Google because they just don't recognize your voice, and they only recognize American English or UK English, but they don't recognize specific Singlish or Malaysian language, things like that. So this is what we say, the future of languages and future of technology actually involve a lot of voice UX designer. So they basically comes out with how to identify and how to suit the market trend for every single robot stuff and AI to read about how humans communicate with each other. So there's so many things that is going to happen in the market, and sometimes we need to think out of the box to see the bigger picture. So I'm just showing you what is digital twins. So in Sydney, basically, we work closely with the government, and what we did is that we actually have transformed the whole city into digital. So in terms of architecture, in terms of what we call technology, AI, machine learnings, these are all combined together, and it transformed the whole, it's basically scanned the whole city in New South Wales into the digital world. And what we do is that basically, if you talk about urban planning, you talk about you want to develop a new buildings, basically you can actually digitalize it and before you actually goes into the development. So that's what's going to be happening in the future. Every infrastructure, every category in the market that you want to do, you can actually predict and plan well before you actually execute, whether it actually work well for that particular part of the city. 2D, 3D views, everything can be done. So there's so many things that we are doing in the market now, and this definitely will help in terms of urbanization and also town planning, urban planning, and make sure everything goes the correct way. And of course, that will be a very, very good planning. And this is a key project. Of course, the Australian government now is planning to scan almost every single part of the whole Australian city and to make it everything digitalized. Of course, the next thing that you come into the mind is like cybersecurity. What happened if, let's say, someone hacked into the system and then you'll be able to identify? Of course, that will come into another area where cybersecurity comes into the picture to make sure they covered that particular part of the business. So in job of the future, there's so many in the market that we have not heard. And these are also some of them which is hot and is already exists in the market. It's just that it's not hot enough to be notified by everyone. And I believe if you look into many of the videos or many of the future tech talks in the market, there's so many things that's going on with the technology market areas where you talk about algorithm bias auditor. What is an algorithm bias auditor? Because everything is AI. Everything is AI. Basically, the system actually detects and say, okay, I will do, if it's A, you go to B. And then if it's B, then you go to C. So everything is programmed, pre-programmed. So when you talk about pre-programmed, the programmer can be biased. So what happened is like, last time we have tax auditor, last time we have accounting auditor, but today, in the future technology, we need an algorithm bias auditor. These are people who are going to audit all the languages in the programming algorithm. So to make sure that the system is not designed in a way that bias toward one end. So there's so many things that's going to happen in the market, and you need to open up your boundary to look into the technology world. Of course, you talk about drone manager, drone pilot. People who study pilot now, maybe they can actually look into this industry, drone manager or drone pilot. It is going to be a huge booming industry in the very near future. So that's definitely happening. Okay, cool. So I'll just touch base on all these areas. Of course, I will try to move on to different part. Of course, the last one, I think it will catch your attention, the organ creator. Basically, UTS actually currently have a 3D printer that work with another organization and together with University of Sydney as well. Three of us are actually working together to use stem cell to print organs. So this is ongoing and is happening, okay? So let's look into the next slide and I'll go into more details on that, okay? So yes, quantum computing. New South Wales state is actually a quantum state, and we actually focus a lot in terms of the quantum technology. And for UTS, we are also creating the language, the platform, or called the platform. Like last time, C language is the platform for almost every single programming language for the general computer world. In terms of the quantum world, they also need a platform. So UTS team, basically under the quantum group, basically they have come out with this QSI, so Quantum System Information Group. So this is a research center, and we have actually developed this platform called QSI. And it actually a base where you can combine all the languages and perform the language for the future technology in terms of the quantum computing. So of course, quantum computing is another technology that is still in the infancy stage. It's just like AI in 20 years ago, and everybody starts to move on with it. But I do believe quantum computing, the next 5 to 10 years is going to be a very hot thing in the market, because now quantum computing is working on solving A problem, B problem, C problem, D problem. It doesn't go into like multiple tasks yet. So they are designing in a way that quantum computing is actually focusing on one specific route, but they are actually combining it now. So I believe in the very, very near future, like maybe another 1 or 2 years or 3 years, there will be a evolve in that sense. It's just like when you talk about writing to printing, we took about 100 years. From writing to email, we took only 500 years. So the development and the process of growing is going to be very, very fast. So this is things that we can look at, and it's going to be a very, very fast growing market in this sense. Okay, so this is one area that you can look at. Of course, in UTS, we do have all range of program from architecture all the way to transdisciplinary, and we combine every single area, and every single area do involve in technologies. And you'll be surprised, even the law degree is involved in technology law. So we do have one major specialized in technology law. So this is something about UTS. We apply technology in every single area of learning process at UTS, including our facilities right in the middle of Sydney, and we focus on how we teach in the future tech as well. We apply technologies in every single area of learning. Just example of our engineering building, the building itself is basically has more than 2,000 over sensor, and it detects you the moment you walk in the buildings. It collects data, and it knows that one person has moving the building, and if there's too many people in particular area, it automatically adjusts the temperature to cool down the buildings. So it is basically a technology-based university, and it applies technology in every single area. Not only that, basically the building itself generates its own energy, it recycles its own water, and it controls its own temperature. So I would say the building is alive. Next to it, basically, is our library. The library itself is also technological. And what happens is that if you can't find the books, I'll show you where you can actually get the books later. Okay. UTS is actually a very young university. We are only 32 years old this year. And I'm actually older than the uni, and we actually rank 133 in the world. And of course, number 9 Australia for the last 6 years. And you can see that the university grows tremendously strong. Every year we jump up the ranking. And if you can see, not only one ranking, multiple rankings tells us the story of how the university achieved the global market recognition. So this is what UTS want to be. UTS want to be the public university that leads in the technology world. And of course, we focus on technology in areas of learning, including our nursing program, where we are actually ranked number 1 in Australia and 7 in the world. So this is something that we are actually doing. And in terms of the facilities, I just give you an example. Every single class at UTS is a collaborative space. If you look at the lecture theaters, you look at the classroom, you look at the common area, every single area in UTS is about practical. So the way we communicate is through practical and discussion and problem solving, and that's how UTS teach the students. It's all about real life, it's all about practical, it's all about hands-on. So this is basically is important, and this is actually part of the most important area where we actually look at. It's also an award-winning facilities, and in terms of like the way we teach, it's actually an Wharton Award. Wharton Award has been called as the what we call the Oscar of education as well. So these are things that has been always brought out in the market. And what we do is that if you look clearly, the lecture theaters are designed in a way that it's actually 2 rows of table, 1 level up. And how we do it is make sure that we split the class into 2 parts. One part is the pre-recorded class, and the second part is where you actually come in and do a lot of discussion and brainstorming to make sure that you actually go through the correct journey and you answer the question, and the lecturers will give you a case study where you come to the group will start to do discussion, brainstorming, and problem solving, and presentation at the end of the day. So imagine you go through the process of the process of learning instead of giving you a black and white answer. That's where you actually generate more enthusiasm, and also the learning process is actually much better. So at the end of the session, basically what we want students to bring back is the skill of the future of work. And this is how you need to take back. First thing, you need to make sure that you are strong in your digital literacy. You make sure you understand how technology applies into every single area of your learning process and how you apply into the industry. Second, you must have a strong skill of problem solving skills. You must be able to work across discipline. Imagine you're working with a group of students. Every time we go to the class, different group of students, you are doing discussion with different group of people. Every single characters are different. You learn to adapt. You learn to be able to communicate through the different parties. That's how you actually work at UTS. And of course, entrepreneurial skill is where the teamwork comes in, the communications comes in. Then these are all the soft skills you need to become good in the industry, how you adapt to the industry. And of course, in terms of facilities, UTS has invested more than 1.2 billion Aussie dollar into the facilities to make sure that we are able to develop industrial-based facilities for students. And just give you an example of this data arena. This is a room of 360 degrees, and it's actually projected by 6 projectors. And this particular room, basically, if you put on a 3D glass, you have a device on your hand, you basically can pull the data, you expand the data, you can move the data around, and it's very futuristic feel. Okay, and you are looking at in playing with data in the game technology world, we basically work with Acer and also at Intel, and they actually set up the system here to go into areas where we analyze how game behavior, people playing games, and how they actually generate a better outcome for students and for future people who are involved in games technology. And of course, this facilities tech lab is right in the middle of industrial zone in Sydney. And we are actually connected to a lot of the industry, and they actually comes into UTS to collaborate with the research activities with students while they're actually using the facilities at UTS. And of course, here, this corner here is actually a small 5G chamber to test 5G signal. We also have a double-story building in Tech Lab where we can analyze a bigger scale of a flying drone and things like that in terms of using the 5G signal. And currently we are involved in 6G, and we work closely with Nokia. And of course, the Lang Chai here, or the cute guy here, is basically Steve Wozniak. He's the Apple co-founder. He's basically the person who created iOS system, and he is also our adjunct professor at UTS. So he doesn't involve in teaching, he involved in research area where he does a lot of areas where how robots communicate with humans and so on. And of course, in terms of, if you talk about civil engineering, you talk about earthquake testing facilities, I think we are also the only one who have these structure testing facilities where we test up to 6G of earthquake testing. We do a lot of robotic stuff for the government. And we basically also play around with a lot of this, sorry, I have the slide, let's move on. We also do this algae reproduction. You know, algae can actually goes into industry like facial product. We can also go into areas like skincare or medication, even fuel. You know, so there's so many industry that's going on with the algae reproduction. So this is an algae reproduction facilities at UTS. We are also working across with another few more university, and I think one of them is Curtin University in Australia as well. So we work closely together to run multiple part of the research in terms of that. In terms of Industry 4.0 and in terms of many other areas, this is another project that we are doing currently in Vietnam. And basically, this is a testing facility where you actually analyze the seawater and to make sure that the agricultural reproduction is actually in good condition. Because like Vietnam and Indonesia, they actually produce a lot of agricultural production for food and all this industry. So with this particular device or these robots actually do analysis on its own, it detects and then come out with the outcome and then send the signal out, the outcome to the base. So we will receive and we analyze the data. So it is just ongoing and many other things that's happening at UTS. If you look into 3D printing, this one I mentioned about 3D modular. So UTS actually, when we launched this in 2019 September, it was one of the most advanced 3D printing facilities in Australia, announced by many newspapers and magazines and so on. We basically have all kinds of 3D printing equipments at UTS. We have devices that cost about $300,000 per unit, and we have a few of them in the campus for students to use. And they just need to book the time slot and then buy the material, and they can actually do the printing if they want to. Of course, they can work with a startup, they can work with the industry together to work out with their projects and many other things. On the corner here, basically, this is a food printing machine. This is as big as me, bigger than me, okay? This is basically the one that I mentioned earlier, using a stem cell to print organ. So they are on the testing phase. And of course, this basically is it's a chipboard that you can actually 3D print. You don't even have to solder them. And I mentioned about the library earlier. So if you can't find the book in this library, it's a 7-story height space. If you still can't find the book, basically it is stored right underground. It's all about technology. Basically, we actually we keep up to 1 million book right under this garden, and you just need to key into the computer, order, the robot will go underground, take the book, and send it back to the collection area. So it's quite convenient and easy to access at UTS, and we are right in the middle of Sydney. Is easy to move around as well. So this is what we prepared students for, and of course, UTS also involved in a lot of startups. UTS is located right in the technology precinct. It's right in the middle of Sydney City, and it is also the entrepreneurship hub of Australia, which is catered up to about 50% of the Australia's startup community. So that's where we are, and that's why we also allocated 2 buildings on UTS to support the startup community. And we currently have about almost 400 startup that is funded by venture capitals. So while you're starting at UTS, we also encourage students to involve in digital world and startup community to make sure that you develop well in all round. And of course, to get a career, of course, every single parents and every single students don't want to miss this. And you talk about career, there's about 8 Australian university ranked in the top 100 in Australia, in the world, and we are one of them. And basically, if you look into the overall picture, the career office basically have all support area, from mock interview to photo shoot to even suit for hire before you actually go for interview. And we are actually ranked number 7 best employed university in Australia and 69 in the world. Okay, so I will actually stop here. Of course, we do have scholarship. We have 100% scholarship, 25% scholarship, and there's many other long lists of scholarship available at UTS. If you are interested, do come over to our booth, and we're definitely able to talk to you in more details about the scholarships. Okay, so I'll happy to open up to questions, and definitely is more than enough. Cool.
All right, everyone. You've heard him. You can start putting your questions in the chat, and we'll start to answer them in a little bit. Okay. That is one. It says, I do realize courses are related to tech are going to be jobs of the future, but if I'm not truly interested in it, is it wise for me to still take it up during my time in uni, keeping in mind solely that it's going to be the jobs of the future? This is a tough one. And I mean, it's one of those commonsensical things where, yes, you should, you actually should just stick to doing what you think you enjoy doing and what your strengths are. Yeah. You don't have to solely go for something just because you think it's going to be highly sought after in the future. You do want to, of course, future-proof whatever you are going to be doing in the future, to have to bear in mind that, you know, there might be a tech aspect that that will come into play. And you know how, Benny, we talked about previously about how if your jobs could be replaced by a robot, right? There's a whole website on that. You can go onto that and put your desired job in there just to see if you think your whatever you think you want to study in uni or make as a career could actually withstand these technological changes and innovation. That is something to be thinking about. Of course, Benny's not doing this presentation to say that these are jobs of the future because and that you should do it. It's just it's these things that I constantly, it's just to keep our students abreast of the updates in the tech sphere, and you know, and what's happening based on his perspective in the university side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of industry. A lot of people always mistaken. It's like example, a lot of people said when you want to involve in space technology, you must study astronomy, astronaut. No, this doesn't mean that. Basically, if you want to involve in space technology, you basically can involve in logistics. You can involve in mechanical engineering. You can involve in any other areas. Even like 3D printing is also one area where you're definitely able to get yourself involved in. So no issue at all. So yeah, that's always how you actually involve yourself and make sure that you do it correctly. That's all.
That's right. That's right. Separately, I think before we wrap up, because we do have 5 more minutes before we introduce our next seminar. Benny, do you want to actually reiterate anything about the COVID situation at UTS that I mean, I know it's an ever-changing situation. So if you don't have updates that's recent, that's fine. I just thought if you would like to say anything about that or about the university support right now, that would be great as well.
So yeah, I think in the sense that for this coming autumn intake, we will still be doing online learning, being that the borders are still not opening up. But one thing good news about all the students is we actually have this support ready for you, in the sense that if let's say you decide to take up the study at UTS, and what happened is like you think that you can't cope with 4 subjects, you can always reduce to 1 or 2 subjects while you're doing online. And in the case that if you actually really didn't do well in the subject, you can actually redo and retake the subject again without an additional payment the next following semester. So this is
Wow.
we allow students to do so, and that's definitely give you more assurance of stress-free learning at UTS. And what we want is make sure students get what they study for and not just to stress themselves to pass the program. So that is more important. And of course, that's something that you definitely need to look into. And basically, yeah, just join us and experience it. You can actually try out the program before you actually take up the whole thing. So look out for more details in our booth. Come over to our booth, and then yeah, I can give you more details in that area. And COVID-19, definitely we have been doing cleaning and sanitizing the whole universities every week. There's a lot of things going on there. So no worries, everything is on a good end. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Benny, for that. And honestly, guys, I can't wait for you guys to go back to physical, because I have personally seen UTS, and I can tell you, I can vouch for it. It is a beautiful university. It's completely at the forefront of, innovation and technological, improvements. It's got a whole, like virtual cave, with like data that you could be analyzing in there. It's just, if you go onto its UTS website, you'll be able to see like a snapshot of some of its more amazing facilities. Even as a library has robotics embedded in it. It's truly, state of the art technology, new everything. It was just regrettable that the COVID thing happened.
Yeah.
Right after, building that.
We can't wait to get students back to the campus. But just to give a glance to most of the students, rest assured, online learning is quite similar to face-to-face, except for UTS. Basically, we only took 1 week to convert the whole university to online during March 2020, and it is as easy process for most of the students because they are so used to the way we teach. And the part where I mentioned earlier, where you actually do a lot of discussion, we can still do it in the Zoom group discussion. So that's why the whole university transformed within a week, and everybody is online.
Yeah,
So,
because you've always had the existing technology. Yes. Here we got another question in our chat, in our Q&A. It says, "Hi, I'm wondering if the competition and the replacement rate in the industry will be high because of more people wanting to join since they're the jobs of the future." Actually, I mean, I'll answer this one. I think the barriers to entry for these jobs are quite high. Like, you would need a university degree, right? Yeah.
Well, in fact, actually, the process of going through, a lot of people think that the technology is taking over most of the job. Is actually not so real. When there's one job taken over, there's multiple job created. So there is more new job available. That's why all these new title is coming out. So when you have one job loss, there's multiple new jobs that need to support that industry. A lot of people say that machine learning take over the job. Actually, when machine learning comes in, there will be need more people to maintain the machine than the machine take over the job. So there will be people who need to maintain the languages, the people who need to make sure that the system is moving, everything is there will be new job created to support that old job. So don't worry so much on that. Yeah. And
I think what this question is also asking is more in terms of the supply and demand of it, and if they'll be overly saturated in that sense, right? Yeah, so I understand where it's coming from. I understand what you're saying as well. It's quite true. However, there's so much that we do not yet know, actually. And actually, yeah, we stay in touch with us because we're actually organizing another session about, skills and futures, skills that you need in the future and how you should find a job based on get a program based on the skills you need for the future. Yeah, and what you should be training for. So you end up being super transferable. No matter what. Yeah. And if you actually go online and you look up STEM, for example, science, technology, engineering, and math, you'll find lots of stats about how so many more jobs are just going to be created on an exponential rate that we do not yet know. So yeah, there will be plenty that some basic training would
medical
you need.
Medical field are looking into technology to do surgery across
right.
so there's so many things that is evolved, and there's more technology world coming into the whole picture. Every single process, I'll say just every single process, there's so many new things coming up. So don't have to worry. As long as you specialize in one area, you definitely will continue to evolve in that particular industry. So the industry is just continue to change, because like, for example, the universities, we are actually working with a lot of companies that skill their staff to make sure that they are able to cope with the new department, and they also can evolve their particular job. So yeah, that's how it goes.
Got it. Thank you so much, Benny, for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for that comprehensive overview. I wish you the very best with the university and the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.